And we're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Earful of Dirt, the Major League Rugby podcast. We're coming to you live. I'm Corey Munson. I'm in Iowa. I'm joined, as always, with Aaron Castro down in Arizona and Liam Madigan-Freed, who formerly is of Massachusetts, now is traveling and is in Tennessee, I believe.
Yep.
How's your week been, everybody?
It's been long and hard.
It's been pretty good. Well, I guess, So, Corey, you know how I told you I ate pounds in Chicago? Well, it was birthday this week, and I had a lot of food over the weekend. I mean, my birthday was yesterday, so that's kind of cool. But last night, specifically, I got the Outlaw Ribeye at Longhorn, and when it comes to ribeye steaks, if you like ribeye steaks, Longhorn's a pretty good option, I have to say. I've had ribeyes all over the place, and for the price and the quality level, it's good. Hey, Longhorn Steakhouse, give you a shout out. Give us some money.
Sponsor us.
Sponsor us.
And then Brooke, being the amazing girlfriend she is, made me a brownie peanut butter cookie dough layer cake. See on my Instagram at the Stro Dog. So when I stepped on the scale this morning, after a few drinks over the weekend and whatnot, I had gained all of it back. So I'd lost 6.5 from the 8 pound gained, and I gained them all back. And so this week's gonna suck running, and it sucks last week, but yeah, so that's where we're at.
Well, as much as running sounds like it sucks, Aaron, I've just been driving for hours and hours on end. I spent all day yesterday in Cleveland. I got to catch the Browns game live, where they actually beat the Atlanta Falcons. The day before that, I was in.
Did you go to the game?
Yeah, no, I was at First Energy Stadium in Cleveland. Yeah,
Nice, man.
You have never seen a stadium erupt until you've seen a Browns victory. 10 team like the Falcons. It was definitely something else. So like you said, though, I'm in Nashville right now. As soon as this podcast gets over with, I'm gonna go hit Broadway. I got back from BB King's, eating some ribs about an hour ago. So I'm feeling pretty good and ready for this fucking podcast to get on going.
Nashville's a great town to go out in.
I love Nashville.
It's already the shit, dude. I fucking love. I'm staying an extra day actually, just because I got here kind of late in the evening, and I actually want to go out and do shit. So looking forward to that.
Very cool. Well, the most exciting thing to happen here is we sold our house. It only took about 2 weeks, so yeah, pretty happy about that. So heading in the right direction life-wise. Appreciate some good news.
Which one of the other 10 people in Iowa bought it?
I think Wilbur. He's down the street a couple blocks. I don't know. And I'll have you know, there's 15 now. Okay, we've more than doubled in size in the last 50 years.
As the presidential election approaches, Iowa's population starts to grow, but then as soon as it's over, it just shrinks back down. Its relevance it varies.
Yeah, and those are mostly campaign volunteers and reporters. So, I guess I should tell folks who we are and what we're doing. Like I said off the top, we're Earful of Dirt. We are live with you every single Monday night here on YouTube, and sent out to the podcast services every Wednesday morning. And we're talking news, views, and abuse about Major League Rugby, the United States Professional Rugby Union. It's a chance for us to go through the issues, hear from the league, talk to players, team leadership, and check in with our friends from across the country. All about USA Rugby. So, with that said, Aaron, we got a rundown. We got a lot of stuff to get to tonight. So why don't you buzz us through what we got coming up?
Yeah, so we're gonna hit you hard tonight. The Eagles defeated Samoa 30-29. Then we're gonna head into Bataille de Repechage, otherwise known as Battle Repechage. 4 teams trying to get that last spot. for the Rugby World Cup. Then Major League Rugby announced their 2019 schedule, and people are starting to buy tickets and stuff. So what games are CBS games of the week, and the rest will be on ESPN Plus if you happen to not have a local team. The Free Jacks will be hosting all 4 of the Irish provinces in a tournament starting on St. Patrick's Day weekend. Then we'll talk a little bit about new stadiums around Major League Rugby, and of course get into the USA versus Romania preview. But guys, do we need to add like Canada rugby coverage like all the time? I don't know. Do I need to do? Who wants to be the junior test match writer? You guys, you get to cover Canada.
Well, I mean, if Brian Ray is watching, then yes, absolutely. We need Canada coverage, all the time and every fucking podcast,
I mean,
we're all part of the same family now. It's the bigger MLR family, Rugby Canada and
Toronto, don't you know?
And you know what? I'll tell you what. As long as Canada's not playing the USA, I'm all for them winning matches. It's kind of
totally. North America over everything.
Hey man, it's not like USC football, which I find a blight on the religion that is football in this country, and I wish was excised via an exorcism of the football priests. But Canada wins some games, man. It's I guess we call this conference pride in football. So sub-union pride. Go Rugby America's North.
There you go.
Hell yeah.
So before we get too far into the Great White North, let's head to some action over in Spain this weekend. And holy cow, guys, USA beat Samoa. I mean, how awesome is that? Holy crap.
It's mad cool, dude.
Well, hey, first time ever. We haven't done well against Pacific Island nations since 1999 when we beat Tonga. So
just to let everybody know, the USA played Samoa in San Sebastian, Spain. We did walk away with a victory 30-29. So, I mean, that was – talk about a squeaker there. So –
Yo, who's the promoter? Because like the stadium was basically being renovated / torn down, something like that, and they still got like 10,000 people to show up. Maybe they should promote USA games at home.
I mean, maybe it's a different story in Spain, especially when people don't have anything to do. They love going to stadiums. But one thing I want to say, just because you mentioned the score and how we eked it out, that getting these victories is always going to be a good thing, especially over a really tough team like Samoa. That they're a team that can really run it hard up the middle, and sometimes the USA one of our big problems has been committing and finishing tackles on teams that can run hard. However, 30-29, like you said, is a really tight score. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but until the United States starts winning games like against teams like this with some authority, we're not going to stand a realistic chance against the upper echelons of Tier 1, such as New Zealand, England, and South Africa. Like beating Scotland was all well and good. But, at the end of the day, 30-29 over a team like Samoa is not going to hold up against the Springboks.
I mean, it won't, but so if there was no line on this game, which sucks, but if you were being a good bookmaker, the entirety of Samoa's team was made up of European professionals. So, I mean, based on where we are and based on our injuries and everything, I felt that if you put a line on it, they would be favored by 5. But my man over at Rugby Forecast said that the algorithm spit out that we would win by 2, and holy hell, we won by 1. There's just a lot of stuff to break down into this match. I felt that it was going to be tight, that new coaching staff for them, but we're talking a fully professional national team. And at times they really played like it. all the holes, when there were holes in the defense, they were able to expose that. They were able to take advantage of the little things rather than the big things, and that's how they ended up getting to 29 points, because we gave them a lot of the little things. To really break down this match, it was a bit rough. We started out awesome, went up 15-0, dominating with our pack and playing the ball well. Our attack, even getting the ball out outside. Our defense was solid, and then in the second quarter, it really just fell apart. Samoa scored 21 straight points, and it was just like, what? And then we scored an unconverted try, so it was 20-21. So it actually looked okay. What was sort of interesting, it was, I guess, you can have a storm all over Europe, because it was a torrential downpour in London. It was a torrential downpour in this one too, because fly half Will Hooley, he slipped and he missed one. I'm sure he's embarrassed, because the GIF makers, if we ever get good, will take that and make a GIF to haunt him forever. But he also hit the game winner, so we'll talk about
Did you just call it a GIF?
GIF, whatever.
I'm a damn millennial, sir. You'll get it right in front of me. But continue.
This is not a whatever situation. It is a GIF. Okay? I swear to God, I will walk off the show.
Hey, Aaron, tell me, am I the meme king of MLR? Do I make really funny memes?
Well, I used to think they were called memes, not memes. Or no, not memes, but memes.
Meme.
Now watch me whip. Now watch me meme.
But I'm sure Gary and Greg are not happy overall about this game, because we gave them a bunch of holes to do the little things. I know the second half, Samoa scores in the first minute, and our defense holds. And really, with who was able to come on, it just changes the dynamic. We lose Blaine Scully in the second half, and Will McGee again has to go play fly half, a position he doesn't play, which was interesting again. But he got it done. Our defense really got it done in that second half, which I was kind of surprised, because it was a bit less, right? And one of the things that concerned me was Devereaux Ferris being called up. He didn't really seem committed in some of the tackles he tried to make, and missed a punch, actually. So Nick Boyer, this is your chance right here. But third quarter, intercept try, Cam Dolan. He had 2 intercept tries. I think he might be pretty good at rugby. What do you guys think?
I think he's all right. He might have some potential with his ceiling.
Guys like him, and then Hanko. Hanko always does what Hanko does. And just filthy. Just filthy.
Yeah. So I put this in the show rundown, and maybe you guys saw it. However, Hunko Hammerscheis is somebody that we need to talk about a little bit more, simply because his name is all over every single game that we've been talking about, this winning streak that the USA has been on in test matches, and more often than not, Hunko Hammerscheis has been involved in some way, shape, or form in some improbable USA victory. Now, what I want to ask you guys is, over the next 2 to 3 years, assuming that he isn't scooped up by a European club and banished to the, towards the bottom of the roster on one of their depth charts, could Hunko Hammerscheis actually be one of the first faces of American rugby that's actually marketable to the greater public if he continues, in the fashion that he has in terms of his performance in the test matches?
Well, he's got, that big square jaw. He's got wide shoulders. He's got that,
the man wrestles
even though he's South African, he dressed like a cowboy from Nebraska. All right.
He's from South Africa, but he went to high school in I think it was Nebraska.
Yeah, he spent just as much time pretty much in Nebraska as he spent in South Africa now, and I think the guy gives off like until Heiko talks, he has a thick South African accent still.
Where have you been?
But he's got that quintessential American vibe going for him, and I think you're onto something there, Mr. like marketing guru. So one of the things that I guess sort of concerned me with how early Devereaux Ferris came on is, we really need to develop a third scrum half that is capable of playing, test level rugby. Because right now we've got Sean Davies, who, he's playing. He can play 80 minutes if need be. And DeHaas can back him up and play 30 to 40 minutes of great rugby, as we saw against Maori. But it's a bit different when you have to start and you're 19 years old. I think he just turned 20, actually, like last week or something. And it is different. So if Sean isn't able to go this week, we just got to keep watching Ruben DeHaas, because how much he will have been forced to grow during this tour is going to pay dividends really in July during World Cup warm-ups and in the World Cup, when you have two scrum halves that can play at such an intense level for 60 to 80 minutes. Like, that will be really important. But the real reason why we need that third scrum half, and even a fourth, really, is the ARC. Because we're going to have 5 test matches, or 4 test matches, and I'm pretty sure we'll only get to Haas for like 1. And then, we'll have Davies, but, we're going to want to rest him a little bit also.
Well, when you have multiple scrum halves, it does kind of give you that edge. However, it's not just in terms of the long run, like, over the course of the ARC. Even mid-game, if you can have a scrum half come in, like, in the second half, or even towards the end of the second half, who can keep up that pace, who can keep up, a steady rhythm in the game, that can be so beneficial to your team, especially when the United States, our huge problem is that we lose pace towards the end of the game. We get gassed, we get tired. You need a scrum half who needs to be able to keep the team in rhythm and make them, or rather give them incentive to want to keep on playing and to see that they actually have a chance. And if you have somebody who can distribute the ball in such a manner that seems possible through all 80 minutes, that's only going to be beneficial, like I said. So the development for more scrum halves is very.
So great game by the Eagles. Will Hooley, missed some conversions, but when it mattered, we took the penalty. He kicked for sticks in extra time. We won. Sadly, we got no ranking points out of that because Italy didn't beat Georgia by enough, and Italy also didn't lose. So Italy either needed to lose or they needed to beat Georgia by like 40 for us to move, to even get points, let alone move. So whoever's playing Georgia this week, do me a favor. Beat the brakes off of them.
But we'll give you a shout out on next week's cast.
Yeah, there you go. The whole country.
Yeah,
exactly.
We'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the U.S.'s match against Romania here towards the end of the show. But ahead of that, you guys want to talk a couple minutes about Rugby Canada and the Repechage thing?
Oh, I think I could talk about Canada there, eh?
So the men's team is taking their last shot at getting into the 2019 World Cup, and they started things off in the Repechage with a pretty impressive win over Kenya. They beat them 65-19 on Sunday. That game was played in France. But they up next on November 17th, they are facing off against Germany, who is just tough. So then the 23rd, they also face Hong Kong. I don't know. What do you guys think? Are they what's their prospects here?
So yeah, I guess I'll talk about Germany first because their game was the less boring of the two. Watched both games for my birthday. Don't you know? Germany looks really good. They have the best pack in this tournament by far, and that's what won them their game against Hong Kong. Hong Kong has some backs. Their Type 5 is also pretty respectable. So, if Canada is somehow able to eke out a victory against Germany, they were going to need to be healthy going into Hong Kong because Hong Kong can scrum, and they've got some dynamic players, especially you at the left, at the right wing. Man, that guy tore up Germany's backs a ton until the fullback. They like playing more 14 on line, and then your fullback playing like a deep free safety. Football terms for all y'all. And that's the only thing that stopped him. And they just looked really good. And over time, they used their scrum as a weapon. I think they got like 4 scrum penalties against Hong Kong. And then their maul was pretty intense. For Canada, the backs didn't do enough for me in the first half. In the second half, they did a lot. And the front rowers did better in the second half. But the whole game, just in the first half, it was just a really poor quality match. It looked bad. And if you look at who the officials were, World Rugby has taken great pains to put the best official panel onto the pitch for these games. Wayne Barnes, who is the top men's referee in the world. And then you have Joy Neville, the top female referee in the world, as an assistant ref. So, they pulled out all the stops when it came to officials for these matches. Ardrin, Olmsted, Buchbaum, guys, you gotta show up, and you didn't show up in the first half. DTH was pretty quiet based on what I was watching until the second half, and that's just it's not going to be enough against Germany because Germany is just going to wear them down. But did anyone else pay attention to when they played Coventry and the Dragons? The only person that didn't play against Coventry was DTH, and then they struggled against the Dragons. It was, I don't know. It just didn't give me confidence going into this.
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to catch this match. But, like we were saying at the beginning of the podcast, I love to hear about Canada getting the victory as long as it's not against the United States. And what I really like is that they made their chances of getting into the Rugby World Cup better because North American rugby needs more North American teams on the biggest stage of rugby, and that is to compete for the Webb Ellis Cup. Now, obviously, Canada is not a team that actually has a legitimate shot at winning the tournament, but it's all about exposure. So, no, it doesn't make me feel good to see that Canada, was nearing the fringes of not qualifying. So getting this victory is definitely a step in the right direction. Whether or not they're going to remain consistent is another story that we're going to have to probably talk about at some other point. But right now, things bode well for North American rugby with this victory and with Canada's potential path to the RWC becoming a bit more clear.
Just, it's... I want to beat the crap out of Canada every time we play, but when it comes to needing good rugby teams in our hemisphere so that we can get better, rising tide raises all ships. So.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It also floods all the houses.
Has been known to.
I'm actually from the coast, man. I know what this shit is like. Don't give me none of your fucking Arizona bullshit about rising.
So, the other thing that happened, there's a lot of things. Another thing that happened this week was that Major League Rugby was nice enough to drop a schedule on us. We now know what's going to happen in 2019. Who's playing who, when they're playing, what channel they're going to be on.
We know everything that's going to happen. We were given the results, the breakdowns of all the matches. We're just not going to spoil it for you.
So
Rugby's rigged. It's the WWE.
It's the WWE. You just got to get the storylines right.
From the
Roman Reigns is coming in for the
From the perspective of coming up with writing the stories for the website, though, it's really handy. We're able to do that. I mean, I think Josh has got most of the season written already, so that'll be fantastic. Yeah, I was really not expecting Austin to win the championship, but hey, what do I know?
Mm-hmm. It was crazy that James Kennedy actually beat the Coppin down in Austin. It was crazy. But
yeah. All right, so it's going to be a 19-week schedule. There'll be 3 to 4 weeks, 3 to 4 games a week, and then, like we said, split between CBS, Sportsnet, and ESPN Plus. It was interesting. I did notice that not all weeks have a CBS game, but they have
some weeks have 2.
Yeah, some weeks have 2. 3 weeks don't have CBS games. 3 weeks have 2 CBS games. So they have 19 games throughout the course of the season, plus then the semis and the championship. But
which is cheating.
I'm guessing that's something like, so rights windows, like they have probably rights for other products that they have to carry during that period. So they're like, hey, can we carry? We signed on for 1 game a week. Let's,
So, Liam, I know you did a little bit of research and wrote up a good piece over on the website, earfulofdirt.com. Tell us what you're seeing.
So, one of the first, the distribution of home and away matches. Now, I'm not going to get into every single team. However, I will tell you that the Arrows and Houston, they mainly for the Arrows, that's just because of the climate of Canada being what it is. It's mad cold. Houston, it's the construction of Aviva Stadium, which is the newest facility in Major League Rugby. And other than Glendale, it's actually the first exclusive Major League Rugby stadium. While we have those teams starting on the road, NOLA is the home because Louisiana is mad hot at this time of year, and it's a pretty good climate, and hopefully the field isn't going to be a total piece of crap like it was towards the end of last season, because a lot of players were not happy. A lot of potential ankle injuries were seen, and a lot of near misses, and a few actually kind of hits in terms of that field causing injuries. So that's hopefully not going to be an issue this time. But one of my favorite pieces of this schedule is actually going to be Glendale versus Seattle. They have a rematch on the opening weekend. Now, we know the NFL usually likes to do this, pitting, the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl competitors against each other in the first or second week. That didn't. However, I like the fact that the MLR is going to be going along with this. Personally, I think Seattle gets the victory in this one. I think their team has remained a lot more consistent in terms of its makeup. I'm not too sure about these academy players coming into Glendale or whether or not they're going to be as consistent as they were last season, especially because we started to see the Raptors fall off towards the end of last season. So who knows if that's going to carry over. Some high-profile players are unavailable due to test matches. Like Corey said, we're going to have more often than not 4 games a week, but there's going to be a few weeks where we have 3. So that's always going to be good. Depth is going to be tested with this longer season. So get ready to see a lot more developmental academy players and former college players that you may have seen on your favorite local colleges roster. It's going to be definitely a very interesting, different MLR season, but it's going to be exciting nonetheless.
So last year, what did we? So the count we had for San Diego had 52 rostered players that they put on their website, and 44. They used the most players at 44 over an 8-game season, or 9 games for them since they went to the playoffs. And then let's look at a professional franchise overseas. The Newport Gwent Dragons used 62 in the Pro 14 and Champions Cup. So if that gives you an idea of, of what we got, then we're going to see rosters of about, depending on what the team and what's going on, you might have a lot of rosters because of injuries hit 50 this year. And, as the salary cap rises, you'll have more full-time players, blah, blah. But rosters are probably going to have to be 45 to 50, every year because guys just go down. That's just the way it is. That's why, these squads are so big with the Irish provinces and the Welsh regions because, it's sort of like centralized control from the top. But even looking at the Premiership, you still have 45-man squads. It's not – it's just going to be the way it is. Right now, Glendale is rounding out their main senior squad with their academy, so they're pushing all their academy guys through the D1 competition. So Glendale is playing in the Pacific Rugby Premiership this season rather than in the Red River. So basically, they're still playing for the same spot that they were playing for last year when it comes to going to the amateur national championship, except they're playing from, I guess, the California side instead of the Texas side, which is kind of funny. So that's cool, I guess.
Although that's going to make the PRP a lot more interesting. I mean, as a Santa Monica Dolphins fan, I kind of have to just pretend it doesn't exist. I used to live in Santa Monica, so I just need to put that out there.
Well, the Dolphins head coach is now the forwards coach at San Diego, so that's going to be real interesting. But the team that I understand that dropped from the PRP was the Olympic Club. So that's why they moved, is there was an opening so that they could get the competition going this year. What is it? One of our friends, Cardiff RCM, is it RCN on Reddit and on Twitter says, these certain players need to be playing at a higher level. They don't need to be playing in college. And it's like, well, it depends on the college. If they're playing at Cal, it's like a push. But if they're playing at,
NVU Linden.
Yeah, NVU Linden. Yeah, they don't need to be at NVU Linden. They need to be, on the Mika Cruz. So the special guys that get identified, if they're that special, where they're just they come through the academy, they're there 6 months, and you're like, we got a center wing that's just gonna tear it up. He's gonna play in all 8 games for us. We need to sign him now to the senior squad. They need to get game time. Get them up, get them playing at the higher level. It helps them, and it also helps you because it will raise the level of your squad with younger, better players all the time. But yeah, depth, especially during the ARC, it is a 6-week window. So since the squad will be mostly domestic, I understand last year we only formed for a week, probably only formed for a week again. And then we're, all 3 of our home games are on the back end. So we might form for a week. Where are we playing away? Chile and so Chile and Brazil. No, not Brazil.
Argentina.
Chile and Argentina. So yeah, Chile and Argentina. So we're probably going to fly everyone down to Chile first. And that's where our camp is going to be, rather than have a camp at home and fly down, because usually you want to be there a week. And Chile also is at altitude, so there's that.
Hey, if you go to NVU Linden, you can train at altitude.
But so it's basically a 7 to 8 week window for domestic players, and that affects a lot of teams in the league. And this is where we get into depth being tested. You have NOLA with a Chilean player. You have Uruguayans. You've got Brazilians. You've got Canadians all over the league. This window is going to be huge. Supposedly, I think they've got into negotiations to get players released for the bye week, but do you really want to use your test match players during that bye week? Probably not. So yeah, they may get released to clubs, but I don't see most of them playing during that bye week. And then you've got 3 weeks on the back end of the squad. So really, you're without players for 7 to 8 weeks. So about half the schedule. Something to think about. But some teams got 2 byes during that period of time, so they only have to play 6 matches. We will see how depth works and how those teams that are heavily taxed work with their national team players, like the Arrows, like the Seawolves, like Glendale, like New Orleans now.
It's very interesting stuff, though. Yeah, there's a lot to think about going into the season. Along with the schedule, we also got our first glimpse of some new stadiums. Well, not the actual stadiums, but we got the names anyway. So going into season 2, we've got some teams shifting locations. What are you hearing, Aaron?
So at some point, during the season, Aviva Stadium is going to come online. Whether that's projected, should be, I think, the second week of MLR season. I mean, if rain continues, I think they're doing work on it right now. So if it stays dry, that thing will be ready to go before the season even begins, and we're not even talking about this. But New York is playing at MCU Park on Coney Island, so down in Brooklyn, and it is accessible by subway. So just drive down, hop on the train, have a good time, and go get a Nathan's Originals famous hot dog at Coney Island Park before the game. Austin, this is weird. For me, I did not know this until I saw the schedule. They're moving to Dell Diamond. For the SaberCats, owning your own stuff is nice. Being able to sell your own hospitality is really nice. Both New York and Austin, guess what they get with where they're going? Corporate suites, and being able to sell those. Because you know what really funds professional sports? When you've got like 3 levels of corporate suites sold out, like you don't even need the rest of the tickets sold, because you're good to go.
I think you need to sell a few more tickets, but continuing on territory up in the great state of Massachusetts, the Free Jacks are hard at work in terms of trying to find a permanent home field. Now, in terms of the exhibition season, or in terms of the just the 2020 season itself, there's been talk that Pine Banks Park in Malden, Massachusetts, where Mystic would be converted much in the way that Shaw Field in New Orleans was, with bleachers put up along these and more space for parking. Currently, there's a dog park and there's a baseball field. However, I think they're going to be clearing more space in the future for some more development. However, the more exciting news is that there's also been talk about which, for people that know the areas, is a pretty up-and-coming suburb just outside of Boston. It's got restaurants, it's got bars, it's also got some pretty easy access to the subway and to the bus lines. So it would make a lot of sense for the Free Jacks to potentially look at that location. Also, going back to Houston has not impacted the construction as much as it's been reported, and that they're looking at a potential early online date, but they're not going to be jinxing it by making any assumptions out there to the public just yet.
I guess I should turn my mic back on. Sorry about that. Yeah, so kind of going off of that with Free Jacks, I'm going to talk next about a tournament that they're hosting this spring. But I reached out to the team to kind of ask them about the stadium stuff, and they did get back to me, but they said that at this point they just don't have answers. Nothing they're willing to release anyway. So I guess we'll wait and see. And I was assured that they will have answers ahead of a tournament, or I guess, a series of matches that Free Jacks are going to be hosting coming up here, starting St. Patrick's Day weekend and going into April 2019. And they're going to be hosting 4 different A sides from professional Irish rugby from the Pro 14. So Connacht, Leicester, Munster, and Ulster are all going to be, that's the A teams for each of those outfits, are going to be coming over to Boston. And the Free Jacks are going to play each of the teams once. And then a couple of the teams, let's see, it looks like Connacht plays Ulster and Munster will play Leinster. And throughout the course of the 6-week period. So this seems like a pretty fun way to first build that relationship with European teams and just get an exhibition season set up for your side. I mean, playing really high level rugby here. I don't know. What do you guys think about this one?
What do you think, Liam?
Well, first of all, I'm mad bummed that I'm moving to Houston. I'm probably going to be missing this whole cavalcade of professional rugby, but that's all besides the point. However, this is awesome for Boston rugby, and I'm really, really excited. However, one of the things that you got to think about is where are all these matches going to be played? So first thing that comes to mind is probably Veterans Stadium and Magoni Field, both of which are owned by Harvard. Veterans Stadium is where their football team plays, whereas Magoni Field is where their rugby team plays. Both of those stadiums, they're both accessible by subway. However, Magoni Field, where the rugby team plays, definitely a little bit smaller. They would probably want to go with something like Veterans just to accommodate for the potential amount of fans that could show up. Another really good location could be Nickerson at BU or even Chestnut Hill at BC, as well as there's tons and tons of suburbs such as Malden, Chelsea, even Swampscott. They all have turf fields that could accommodate a decent amount of people with plenty of parking and accessible by public transportation, which honestly everywhere in Boston is accessible by public transportation. That's why we're better.
So, I guess this was supposed to be an originally a tour of Ireland. I don't know. That was just a conversation I had with, Boston, a Free Jacks player. But hosting this is pretty cool. I'm not a proponent at all of exhibition seasons at this point. I think, especially in year 3 and year 4, for whoever those expansion teams are, the leap you're going to have to take. If there are expansion teams in year 4, actually, I wonder. Especially like year 5 or 6, you're not going to be able to execute an exhibition season against domestic competition. And it seems, Alex Magleby and Eric Anderson at the Free Jacks are thinking on the exact same wavelength as me. Great minds think alike.
You're fucking genius, Aaron. I swear to God, fucking genius.
So, the core of their team, if they're able to keep it together, is going to get some great experience. This will prepare them for the 2020 MLR season with those 4 games. So they're going to learn a lot. They're going to get beat up, but it's high-level competition. Whereas if they were going to play a bunch of D1 teams, it's not the same as what MLR season 3 is going to be.
It would just be another ARP season if they did.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's no
except Boston would win this, most of the.
Well, you're going to bring in some ringers, so try to build out that core for next season. So
yeah, I also think what can't be downplayed though is the massive Irish population in Boston, and even if people don't watch rugby, there's going to be incentive to go to these games just because of the fact that their team's coming over from Ireland. I was actually even talking to my mother, who has interest in going to one of these games.
We're gonna max out the Irishman credit card in America with 6 matches. But if that's the kind of exhibition season you're gonna have, I'm all about. If you're not gonna have this quality, this level, I don't want it to be done. Just focus on building out commercial stuff for the next season. So, it's going to be nice. What I do want, what American rugby fans want, is these games need to be streamed somehow so that we can watch them. Because that's going to be you're going to see some good rugby players coming over from Ireland, and you want to see how we compare. So.
If only we had some, site or channel or something like that was meant only for rugby, a channel of rugby, a rugby channel, if you will. If only one of those things existed in a feasible and usable manner, that would be fucking great.
It's a dream, but it's only a dream.
I dreamed a dream.
So that means it's just going to be on their Facebook page, right?
I
That's
hope.
usually how it ends up.
Hey, that's, but that is accessible to billions of people right now,
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
More than Flow Rugby.
Wish I didn't have to pay for a flow of rugby all the time, It just sucks having to pay to get that flow. Stop charging money. Flow. Your quality's not that good to charge money. Flow. Sorry.
Oh. Well, yeah, it was a pretty rough broadcast this weekend.
Yeah.
And speaking of things broadcast on Flow Rugby, that's called transition. Boom. USA
it was in the rundown.
USA faces off against Romania on November 17th in Bucharest. So we've done pretty well against Romania, at least in the last few years, up until 2016. And we kind of won't talk about that one. But prior to that, in 2012 and 2014, we beat them 34-3 and 27-17, respectively. So I'm kind of hoping that this year's Eagles will be more like those Eagles and less like the 23-10 loss in 2016. So I don't know, Aaron, what are you predicting about this match?
So I got some breaking news. And maybe it's not so breaking. Maybe we're not the first source, but I did confirm that Samoa Manoa will be in camp and is available for selection for this match, whereas he was not available for the selection last week because he was not selected. And so that will give you a hard-charging number 4 lock, who also gets after it in the breakdown and will drive up some tackle rates. So that is going to be very important. This is another step for the Eagles. Winning here is extremely important. The Romanian pack is gigantic. Their back line is also pretty big. They're very experienced. Everyone's a professional. They play, almost all of their players play in the Superliga in Romania. So they have a domestic professional competition that's been around for a very long time. It was built off of the original domestic amateur Superliga, and when people invested some money, and then you've got a scattering Romanian players throughout Pro D2 and Top 14 that Tomas Levermont has been able to get released for this tour. Sadly, Romania is not going to the World Cup because they fielded an ineligible player for like 2 years. But when it comes to what Thomas Levermont and also Danny de Villiers, formerly of the Austin Huns, who now coaches Romania Sevens and the backs for Romania, they're playing some good rugby right now. They play a physical game. They have a willingness to take hits. So what we have to do, we have to be very physical. We have to have a willingness to take and deliver hits, because they're gonna play a bare knuckle brawling style that also can push the ball wide. So there you go.
Yeah. Awesome analysis. But I mean, pretty much all I really need to say about it is that it's kind of like what you said. We need to play fast. Obviously, one of our big problems is falling behind in games, and when we fall behind, we have a tendency to not be able to sort of pick ourselves up out of that hole, and that can really be our downfall. And kind of like I said about the Samoa match, this needs to be one of those games that the USA needs to win with authority if we actually want to start making some moves and gaining more respect on the national stage. This can't be just a 20-16 victory or a 30-29 victory. I would very much like to see a win by at least 2 tries or a try and a penalty. Something along those lines, something that says the USA controlled this match, especially towards the end. So hopefully that's something that
I'm backing the boys. Really not sure what this was going to look like, but I'll say converted try for the Eagles. And they will be in control 70% of the match.
Hey, that would be just fine.
No trap game, no trap game, no trap game.
Yeah, what Liam said.
Atlanta Falcons.
All right, guys. Well, we are getting close here, so let's just buzz through a couple questions from Bob. This is our regular segment where we take questions from not only the comment section here on YouTube, but also our subreddit over on reddit.com/r/mlrugby. So be sure to hit us up there, and we'll address those questions as we can. But first off, Demetrius hit us up over in the YouTube comments. He wants to know, what the hell ever happened to the Dallas team?
They're sort of still there, but really nothing. I mean, it still exists as an entity, but will they be moving forward to try and, be in the league for 2020? I have no clue. I think there's still an intent to enter the league, but nothing.
Dallas is one of those markets that the league would obviously like to enter and take advantage of. However, like Aaron said, it's just we haven't really heard anything. While they are still technically an entity that exists, MLRs is going to move forward with the teams that are putting up the cash and have the the Dallas market doesn't have the players to put on a roster. But we're just gonna keep on moving forward with who we have. Whether Dallas can get their shit together that's anybody's guess.
Okay. Greetings, ADM wants to know, any rumors on Honko's overseas prospects, chances that he's returning back to MLR this year?
I mean, if he wants to return back to MLR, he's a marquee player. So I'm sure someone will sign him if he decides to. He's ready to go overseas, my opinion. He's ready to go play overseas for 3 or 4 years and then come back, because I think in 3 or 4 years, MLR will be able to pay the kind of wages that he can command domestically here, not necessarily in Europe, but for him to grow as a player, he needs to play, top level competition where he's fighting for that starting spot, because I think he's that level of player, and we're seeing he's that level of player at test level, because as Liam said in the breakdown of the Samoa match, he's always involved. You see him poaching out on the wing, getting ready to just take something. He was able to take the offload from AJ McGinty and score a try. He scored a 70-meter try against Samoa. This is a guy who's athletic. He goes to work at the breakdown. He's ready to continue playing high level rugby. So but I will ask him as soon as this tour is over, because I asked him about the Austin thing and he confirmed. So, and then he, went back to playing rugby. So,
Andy Rob Nev asks, what are the positives and negatives of one entity having ownership over multiple franchises?
So it allowed MLS to be stable when AEG owned 6, because they originally didn't own all those franchises. They had to take control over them, and Hunt Sports had to take control over 3. It gave the league stability for a period of time. So if you have the money, that you can help provide that stability. But really right now, there's 11 different ownership groups or 12 different ownership groups in the league. So
there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, so you have a lot of people you would have to convince with your business plan that you also have the cash to back up 2 teams to make it. So I don't really think, unless it's, I don't really think we're ever going to see a double ownership group in this league. And if, eventually they would be forced to sell those rights off, as you've seen in the MLS.
I'm sorry, doesn't the Seattle ownership have stake in another team? Or am I just thinking about their partnership with Canterbury?
So originally they were going to have stake in the Vancouver franchise, but the bid hasn't really gone anywhere for like 10 months. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can think of the kind of like there's obviously the problem with too many cooks in the kitchen in terms of having multiple entities owning a single team. When things get complicated and when more people get involved, that's when things start to get messy. So I kind of like to have one group per team. However, in terms of providing league stability, I'm willing to kind of try anything that might work in these early days. Next question.
All right. Well, I think actually the next question is going to be, we'll go ahead and get wrapped up here. We're just about out of time.
Oh, fuck yeah.
We've got some, so you guys know, we do have some questions we'll be holding for next week. We got a lot this week. So if we didn't address them.
Thank you guys, by the way. Keep it up.
Yes.
Seriously.
If we didn't address your question this week, we'll either answer it next week or hit back.
I'm gonna take one that we have left.
Go for it, Aaron.
So Adam Downey Keene says, with Boston announcing the Irish connection, do you think they missed a trick not using the Boston Irish or with the nickname Exiles? Well, no, because there is a club team called the Boston Irish Wolfhounds. So they probably like their club name and wouldn't take too kindly to a professional team trying to appropriate their trademark.
Boston clubs are also very proud people with very territorial, brass. So I was just going to say that wouldn't go over well with the Wolfhounds whatsoever. I wanted the Minutemen or the Rebellion.
I would have liked those.
But I asked the Boston Minutemen.
So on our way out, you guys have any final thoughts before I close this thing down?
So if you go look at the cake that's on my Instagram, I'm going to go have a slice of that right now. Just.
If you Google Broadway Street, I'm going to be stumbling drunk down it in about 15 minutes.
Well,
my hotel's like right there.
Inebriated, not drunk.
Yes, inebriated, intoxicated.
Liam, hey Liam, do we need to sing "Happy Birthday" to Aaron?
Oh God.
Maybe we'll save that one for off the air.
Yeah, we'll save that.
Well, Aaron, have fun eating cake. Liam, have fun with your evening out. About the only thing I got to say on our way out is I'm going to go ahead and do a little complaining real quick. And this is just on the heels of the weekend and not getting to watch the USA match this time around, USA Samoa match. I think it is freaking stupid to have our national team, what's supposed to be the hallmark, the epitome of rugby in this country, being stuck behind a paywall from a group that nobody knows that charges a lot of freaking money to get access to their content. And I don't know. I understand the history. I understand the destruction, that the collapse of RIM and what went into this decision. I get it. But just as a fan, for me, this November test series has just been a reminder of how bad of a choice this was for the union. So that's about all I got to say. It's not specifically at Flow Rugby. They just happen to be the entity that stepped up. It could have been Joe's TV Shack. It doesn't matter. But anybody who sets up a system that is this expensive and this exclusive for the national team, it's ridiculous to me.
So, all I have to say is I was able to watch France Féminine 15, France Féminine 15 versus the Black Ferns, free to air last week on Friday, because they broadcasted it on free air and on France public television website. So, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put my angry Corey back in the sack and get on with it. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We love the support. Thanks for hitting us up on the comments, Sebastian, or whoever it was. Demetrius, thank you for saying hey tonight. We are here every Monday night, live on YouTube and available for download on podcast form every Wednesday morning. If you like what we do, please hit us up and subscribe to our YouTube channel and our iTunes feed. It helps folks find us. Be sure to share your own news, views, and abuse with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And as always, thank you so much for listening and watching. We will be back here next week on Monday night. Until then, go out and watch some rugby. Thanks, guys.